OGTV. I welcome you to your darling program. A veteran journalist, a doctor. He is a senior lecturer in a very reputable university in Nigeria, one of the leading universities for that matter. And he's a one-time director at Nigerian Television Authority. What am I talking about? No other person than Dr. ADEMOLU OKUNEYE. Doctor, you're welcome to the show. Welcome. You're welcome. Doctor, when we talk about corruption, how does corruption promote crisis or dispute and some other things? What exactly is corruption when we're talking about?
Well, corruption can be looked at from different perspectives, but the most legible in terms of relevance has to do with moral issue. A moral from the perspective of is this how it's supposed to be done, or this is the way it is done, or where somebody has actually gone wrong. Oftentimes in Nigeria, we have an impression that corruption has to do with just money, when somebody tampered with money. Well, it goes beyond that, because corruption entails behavioral pattern, legitimacy. Should it be a legal approach to handling an issue, or any approach to handling any responsibility in terms of even financial is there, even moral, behavioral, industrial, and many perspectives. So when this goes against the normal, you see, and especially where there is that interest in self-aggrandizement, you realize that it somehow goes against the normal pattern. So the abuse is the corruption that one can see in various perspectives when we talk about corruption. And you are relating it with conflict now. I feel that both are just negative developments when it comes to human development or human activities. And so, because corruption is negative, conflict is negative, and both are now being related in this particular discussion. And it's really a terrible thing, especially when you take a look at it from human perspectives and relevance to development of peaceful environment.
Thank you, Doctor. So when corruption is the song of the day, and people are asking questions based on the trust, on the goods or power or fund entrusted on that particular office or the person, and they are not getting answers, this could lead to crisis or conflict. How do we curtail this?
Well, let me first emphasize the fact that Nigeria has actually not been favorably rated when it comes to the corruption index at international level. The Transparency International came up with an assessment in 2020 saying that Nigeria was occupying 146th position out of 180 nations in the world. And I would say this is even commendable, because the gap, if you can beat about 146 nations, 145 nations, that means that we're actually trying at our own level. But notwithstanding, the situation had actually changed over time. 2020, that's about 4 years ago. And today, the situation has not been really commendable, because the situation in Nigeria continues to get worse, because the ratings have not actually favored Nigeria in terms of the corruption index. And so you take a look at what are these factors that are responsible. You take a look at the different types of corruption in Nigeria. You talk about political corruption. That's where political office holders are actually operating. And you talk about educational corruption, where people in different fields in the educational sector are also playing their own role. We talk about health corruption there too, and agricultural and other perspectives. We can still continue like that and have different perspectives of corruption which are identified with Nigeria. And don't forget the police corruption. Recently there was a rating that in Nigeria, the most corrupt organization, one of them was mentioned. And then there are other ratings that are actually not actually been impressive. And so when you take a look at these, they are such that could actually affect the peaceful coexistence of people. Don't forget that what happened in the northeast, where you saw the Boko Haram operating, has been as a result of an impression that there have been corrupt practices by political office holders in the northeast. And they are alleging that most of the funds made available to the leadership in that particular section of this country have not been expended on the areas of needs, and that what was going on had been, if each time such funds are provided, that they just divert it and they pocket it. And so as a result of that, it has actually influenced conflicts within that particular section. It's not just that particular section. There have been other places too where there have been agitation and reactions, negative reactions, and fueling such acts of destruction and conflicts. And so definitely when you talk about funds not being expended, this is a very good example. Don't forget the story of a governor who also gave his friend, I think he was in the Niger Delta area, a friend was given a contract to construct a particular project, and a very good amount of money was also provided. But somehow the governor who met the friend after a very long time, now just said, just go and do this particular project. And the man went and started doing. Where he got to a particular stage when he ran out of funds, I needed additional money in order to complete it. And I learned that the governor said, what? You mean the money that was given to you was really expended on that particular project? This is part of political corruption. Political office holders trying to empower their friends and their relatives and those stuff, and not expecting such projects to be executed. Because I learned that that particular governor was saying that that money was given to you, but that project was actually just to say that you should do these projects. And in Nigeria, you see so many projects that you will hear that have been awarded, and you see that they are not executed. That's where I must commend the AFCC for actually carrying out a program of monitoring constituency projects for lawmakers at national level, because it was also discovered that it was also another means of acquiring money illegally. And so what you have said is actually something that had been on and had actually been influencing conflicts in our society.
Thank you, Doctor. Yes, Doctor, we'll go on a very short break now. But before we go, I want to ask you, what exactly does an average Nigeria want to shun corruption? But when we come back from the short break, we'll go into the matter. Viewers, please, stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the show. Still your matter, peace and conflict resolution is still the matter. I still have my guest in the house, Dr. ADEMOLU. He has been doing justice to the topic we brought to you today. Doctor, just like I said earlier before we went on that short break, what exactly does an average Nigerian want to shun corruption?
Well, let me just draw your attention to what I read concerning development in Japan. There was a particular story concerning lives in Japan, how you could actually forget anything anywhere and you come back and you meet it there, where you could forget even your laptop anywhere and you just discovered that it is there and that nobody had touched it, and that the rate of crime in Japan is low because have you heard of any conflict in Japan of recent or something like that?
Not at all.
And that means that the people of that country are well taken care of in terms of comfort, in terms of having access to food, having access to electricity, having access to job, and I'm talking about employment, having access to good things of life, engaging almost everybody. It's just not the youth, because everybody is involved. When you even take a look at the recent demonstration that concerning end bad governance, you will see an elderly man who was naked and they're walking, not a youth. And then there were occasions when you also saw some elderly people who were involved. It is just a way to say that it's not just the youths that are being affected, that this thing concerns everybody. Because in a situation where you do not even have access to medication, if you go to the pharmacy today, see how much they are selling medical necessities. You see that the prices had actually gone out of hands. You realize that not many people could afford. And so in a situation where such a person cannot afford medical necessity in order to actually live a good life and cannot even go to the hospital and get free medical services, then there is a big problem, because the anger will just be there. And then you cannot have access to good food. And you see a crate of eggs today, 4,500. Can you just imagine? That was one thing you were buying 3 years ago at what rate? You are buying for 800 naira.
And that for 4,000 plus could be very small.
Yeah, 4,500.
5,000 and what?
And now people are actually not having access to good food, not having access to medication, not having access to even power supply, because you even see in terms of the grading of the different power supply, you realize that some people are just sentenced to no light, no energy, probably band Z. And at the end of the day, they have no... So such things can actually bring out anger in an individual. You see? So a Nigerian definitely needs that good environment to live in, a comfortable life, a life that you can have access to the needs of lives, food, housing, good health, having access to good education, having hope for tomorrow, and also having access to education and having access to employment, good employment, and also being comfortable. A Nigerian doesn't care about any other thing but comfort and hope. You see, hope gives that energy that tomorrow will be better. But when you look at today, you look at yesterday. Yesterday was not good. Today is bad. You just be wondering what will happen tomorrow, and that is very dangerous. So there must be that assurance that tomorrow will be better. And how do you just get that assurance? That assurance depends on the leadership we are also working. What is the leadership also bringing forward? So when you look at it and say that this is vague, and the leadership is actually not showing any relevance to your existence, then that's why you experience things like the Japa syndrome that people have been going through. And it's really a very big one.
Thank you, Doctor. when we look at the work of EFCC, what they are doing, the effort they are putting in place, we could see that they are doing that on behalf of the government, and it shows that government is really doing more to make sure things are done right in the society and for Nigerians to be better, to have hope of tomorrow. Doctor, renewed hope is what we are about to enjoy these days. And how do you see the renewed hope coming with the present situation?
Well, I made mention of hope as very relevant. And for every human being, there's always this aspiration that tomorrow will be better. And when you say renewed hope is like referring to, where was the hope earlier? Probably you are referring to Hope 93, where there was hope for a better tomorrow, where there was hope for that's a very beautiful environment for Nigerians. And you are now saying that that Hope 93, which died, you can now start dreaming about it today. And so if we actually to have that renewed hope, there must be that understanding. There's no doubt that there was this belief and trust in the leadership of the president, Nigeria's president, because it's not just that he ruled Lagos. No, it is because he fought for democracy. He was one of those who actually stood against the military. We all knew how he had to even leave Nigeria. And don't forget some people that he also assisted in their survival, as they were also targets of the military. And so there was that very high hope from Nigerians, and there was that impression that the Messiah had come. And you know, when you have this impression that the Messiah is here, you know how, in terms of expectation, a very high expectation that, oh, the renewed hope, yes, it must. I know so many friends who were saying that this is it, we will get out of it. There was nobody that doesn't know that the immediate past government would also reflected, even as it was living, saying that there is, that the subsidy on oil was going to be removed in June. You now wonder, this is a government that was even taking loans, like no man business. It's taking loans and finishing, few days before the end of that regime, they still collected very high loan in terms of dollars, and they collected. And within, you just wonder how are they going to spend that money within that particular short period. But the money was finished before they left. And apart from that, saying that by June, there was going to be subsidy removal. So it was like really digging a very big hole for the incoming government. And so there were some people that were actually looking at it that was going to be tough. I remember that I told some people, in the next so and so months, after this guy takes over, this is what will happen, this is what, and people were just surprised. I knew about a good number of people were around who can actually testify to this. But I was saying that there will be a big challenge concerning living standard in Nigeria. But my belief, and probably it was the target of this administration too, that the rehabilitation of the refineries could actually bring about that renewed hope. The fact that once these refineries were repaired and are also producing, then the stress on the Naira will be limited, and then probably the value of the Naira can be enhanced, and then there could be better situation. But you just realize that the completion of rehabilitation or the completion of Dangote's refinery continue to just they continue to postpone it. And as they were postponing, Nigerians were wondering. And just even take a look at Dangote refinery and the Dangote saying that it could not have access to crude oil in Nigeria, and it was going to USA to import crude. But it was good that the renewed hope part of this regime came into play as the president said that the crude oil should be made available to Dangote refinery and probably other refineries that are springing up. That was a very good intervention and really a very good hope, a renewed one for that matter. Yeah, so the need for that courage, renewed hope, to always resonate in the hearts of the leadership is very essential, because if there is a failure to actually look at that target, then there is a very big problem. Nigerians will continue to just agitate for better standard of living. When somebody wants to travel and you are being told to pay 4,000, 5,000, Lagos to Abeokuta, 4,000, 4,005, and you now ask the transporters why, they will say it's petrol, yes, this, is that. And I've always been telling people that, although I know that cost of spare parts and those stuff are just high, but then the NURTW must also be summoned in the rate at which they come up with rates for transportation. It's always a very big challenge for Nigerians. They are very relevant to economic development of the society, but they must also know that whatever they do also affects them too, because they too also go to the market. But when they now say that transportation is a big challenge, they too must also bring about the need for the comfort of Nigerians generally.
Okay, thank you, Dr. ADEMOLU. You have done well. The question I'm about to ask is not a question anyway. In addition to the solution you have suggested, what and what would you advise the government to put in place?
First, the need to enhance the value of the naira is very essential. The need to have an affordable rate for purchase of petrol is the most important. I just spoke about transportation now. You see, once in Nigeria, you should understand Nigeria very well. Once the value of petrol is increased, even by just 1 naira, you'll see NURTW will just hit 10 naira on each this thing. And from there, food, this thing. Then energy. Energy is very essential, power supply, because these industries are also using energy to produce the products. And when petrol, diesel, and the prices of those are on the high side, those who could not afford, where power supply is not regular, definitely will patronize for petrol, diesel, and those stuff for their production. And there will be hike in prices of the commodities. And so it is very essential for government to always consider the effect of price hike, either on energy, on the petrol, diesel, kerosene, or other perspective, and also power supply. These are very essential because they affect the people generally. So once this can be addressed, and then the value of the currency is also enhanced, definitely things will be better. And you have a program of action that will always encourage discussion between you and the people. How do you get your feedback? Feedback is very essential, because the feedback also makes you to actually see, are you performing or you are not performing? And the feedback has to do with the people generally. When the people say you are doing well, it's only unfortunate that people try to play to the gallery. They always want to see the political office holders as people that must be really be lied to, because they know that some people don't like to be talked against. Most of our political office holders are just their tolerance level concerning any comment negative to their interest is 0 level. And so the leaders must be ready to listen and must be ready to also communicate and also get feedback regularly, and see feedback as very relevant, not negative, but a way to also enhance and to promote their own regime.
Thank you, Doctor. It has been Dr. ADEMOLU OKUNEYE doing justice to the topic, corruption. how corruption has to do with or ignite the conflict and crisis we have in our society, in our nation, and the solution he has said. And Doctor, I must thank you very much for coming on the program. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, we'll be drawing the curtain on the show because of our time.